In the mid-1960s, Julie Andrews starred in a musical film about a fierce woman who enters into a wealthy European man's house to look after his children, while the father is emotionally distant from his kids. He may be rich and of high status, but he is not an amazing father. Miss Andrews helps the kids experience joy again by taking them on adventures, singing songs, and showing them kindness along the way. And as a direct result of this, the father learns the error of his ways and becomes a kinder person and a more present parent. Did you not realize I was talking about two films? Mary Poppins, released in 1964, and The Sound of Music, released in 1965, are two films that somehow fit this specific criteria. And obviously, the films are fundamentally different. Mary Poppins is about a magical nanny who brings whimsy into the kids' lives, whereas The Sound of Music is more realistic, except for some musical numbers, but that happens with all musicals, so the point is moot. Anyway, I want to focus on the core of these films. Spoilers, I guess, for these 60-year-old movies. The redemption of the father. George Banks is stuffy and spends all his day at the bank while barely acknowledging his children, which causes sadness in their life. Meanwhile, Georg von Trapp is arguably worse. He commands his children with a whistle, makes them march daily, refuses to let them sing or play, and his distance toward the children causes them to act out towards all 7 previous governesses. Yet thanks to the power of Julie Andrews, literally in one movie, and the kids, the father comes around and finds happiness again, reconnects with his children, and ends the movie a better person. However, between the two movies, one of these does way better than the other. The Sound of Music easily soars above and beyond in this department, whereas Mary Poppins, while still a great film, does not have as great as a redemption, in my opinion. So today, I will compare the two films and tell you why The Sound of Music redeems the father better than Mary Poppins. Let us start with the film that came first. In Mary Poppins, as we discussed, we see George Banks being stuffy and basically ignoring his kids. How rude. He gets more and more annoyed with Mary Poppins' shenanigans and eventually confronts her. However, she convinces George to take the children to the bank. However, the kids accidentally piss off Dick Van Dyke and go home. Mr. Van Dyke is extremely upset at this foolish behavior and blames the father. George vents to Bert, who gives him some advice. We'll get to this scene later. At the bank, George Banks is... I'm not quite sure what this is. Is he fired? Or just demoted? Or is this for show? Well, it's definitely for show, but I digress. After taking everything into account, George Banks erupts into laughter. He becomes a giddy mess, repeating the precocious word supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, singing songs, telling jokes, smiling uncontrollably, and skipping away. This continues when he gets home. My problem with this scene is that it is quite simply way too childish. George Banks has always presented himself as a stoic man. Though he's stern, his seriousness was never the problem. It was his distance from his children and his total lack of imagination that made him the antagonist. There isn't a hit of silliness in him, except for maybe when he sings, but everyone sings, even those bank guys. Above all else, it's just too childish for me. It honestly makes me cringe. It's so over the top and not in a good way. Like, this is how a kid would react. He turns from an adult to a kid in just a few seconds. It's a big tone killer. The film is silly at times, but it's rarely this excessive. Maybe in the I love to laugh scene, but again, Uncle Albert is designed to be silly. George Banks is not. One may argue this is the point, but I don't think George Banks had to humiliate himself to this degree in order to prove his point. Now, yes, I know this film was primarily made for kids and families, but this film could be subtle with its emotions at times. Think Feed the Birds, or Bert having a pep talk with the kids. This film can create subtle emotional moments when it wants to, but it didn't do that here. And even if this was the whole point, as an adult, I don't gel with it very well. Other kids' films don't do this, like Toy Story for example. It's less childish than Mary Poppins in every way. But I can do one better and simply compare this to another Julie Andrews musical from the 1960s. Georg von Trapp feels similar to George Banks in several ways, including his first name, just one letter off. Anyway, he makes his children act like soldiers, like he is back in the Austrian Navy, or whatever they call it. He's acting from trauma, and no, it does not excuse it, or something due to his wife's death, and now his children act out and are distant from their father. In this story, Georg realizes his mistake after a fiery confrontation with Maria and hearing his children sing. This combination helps him realize that, yes, he has been too harsh to his kids, and yes, he doesn't need to make them act like they're in the military. Overcome with emotion, he gets out his guitar and sings Edelweiss for the children, Maria, the Baroness, and Max. At this point on, Georg is a way kinder man. Now, here's the crucial thing. Georg, like George, is stoic. That's how he was designed. And due to this, his emotion is more subtle. He's not laughing out loud, he's not being especially giddy. He shows his emotion more through his actions than facial expressions. Him singing and letting the kids have fun shows his character growth. He smiles, which is enough. Because in real life, generally, most adult men are not prone to over-the-top emotion, generally. Especially not in front of others. While Banks wants to laugh and skip around, Von Trapp simply smiles. That's it, that's all he needs. The transformation makes sense, it doesn't feel out of character. You get caught up in the emotion of the scene. Adults probably can't do the same with Banks, who acts too childish for his own good. After this scene, Georg changes immediately. He lets his king sing, play, and perform for his party. He's a happier man, and instead of childish glee, we see it through what he allows his kids to do. This was the main way we saw his character, and now it shows how much of a better father and man he is. Even when Maria leaves, he tries to keep his children happy, and yet he never cries. His displays of emotion are shown through his smiles, subtly, and his caring for his kids and Maria. Now, if you're a man who is naturally more prone to show emotion, that's fine. If either of these characters were prone to show more emotion, then that's fine, although Von Trapp would have to be changed. It would have helped George Banks at least. These two scenes, however, may be a microcosm of why The Sound of Music is better than Mary Poppins. Generally, a film for all ages is more likely to be better than a film for mostly kids. Now, there is one scene in Mary Poppins that could have been the catalyst for a great redemption scene. A man has dreams. This is the best scene in the movie, and honestly, it's as good as parts of The Sound of Music. Better than its climax. Not to say Sound of Music's climax is bad, it's just not as good as Dreams. In the scene, George talks about how a man dreams of walking with giants, and rants to Bert about how Mary Poppins messed up the family. But Bert helps George see that he needs to be closer with his kids, to not be such a workaholic. It's more emotionally grounding, it's more mature, it's beautiful. I didn't love this scene as a kid, probably because I was dumb. But now, I see this as an amazing scene. The song is simply amazing, at least in terms of the emotion it brings to the scene overall. If you remove the bank scene and make this the climax, granted it doesn't work as George isn't fully redeemed yet. He still blames Poppins and isn't fully caring of the children yet. The bank scene, unfortunately, is necessary. But I wish that the scene went in the direction of A Man Has Dreams. Something more subtle, more emotional, more mature. But that's not to say Mary Poppins is bad. I love Mary Poppins. If you want to hear more on films like these, considering following my Letterboxd. And if you want to hear more about what I have to say about movies, consider subscribing to my channel if you want. And with that said, I want to hear your thoughts. Which film is better? Which Father's Redemption was better? I want you guys to let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Man, I really need to think of a more creative outro.